Hi lovely people, and a happy November to you all.
Doobie 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 doo. Doobie 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 Sophie Vlogs.
My traditional autumnal cold has arrived, so I apologize in advance for any huskiness that is present in this video, but I got too excited about the topic of this and I thought, God be damned, we must record. So I'm here to talk about Nonfiction November. I don't know who started Nonfiction November. I don't know who started this read along thing, but I saw a video on Leanne Rose's channel, which I will link down below. Great channel, really recommend, super great taste in books. And I mainly was just like, I'll jump on board with this, because 2018 has been the year where I've read a lot more non-fiction than I used to. And the idea of Nonfiction November is just you read more non-fiction than you tend to do on average. So if you read no non-fiction, it just means maybe you read a non-fiction book. If you read a lot of non-fiction, maybe you challenge yourself to read a lot more, or read stuff that you've been meaning to get around to for ages, that whole sort of thing. There are 4 prompts for this, and for each prompt, you just get to interpret it however you want, really, which is what I have done. So, let us dive into it. The first prompt is home, so I've chosen for this one, Rising Ground, A Search for the Spirit of Place by Philip Marsden, because this sort of looks at how we sort of develop a sense of place. So it looks at how places come to have like a spirit to them, what makes that up, how does that develop, and I think it's looking at sort of like Cornwall's like ritual sites and stuff like this, and just sort of the landscape and the history of that sort of thing. That's about the extent that I know about this. I bought this a while ago because it was on a video that Kate Morton and Lena from Justice Kiss My Frog did together, and they're both people whose writing / taste in books I like. So I'm excited to finally read this. I've been meaning to for ages. This is the perfect opportunity. Hooray. The second prompt is substance, which I've interpreted... Oh well, I'll just tell you about the book first. Getting ahead of myself. I have chosen The Mighty Dead, Why Homer Matters by Adam Nicholson, because the Iliad and Homer and the Odyssey is a passion of mine. I did my dissertation on the Iliad, I also love the Odyssey, and this book sort of explores why it's still important and why it still matters to our culture and all that sort of thing. So I've interpreted substance as something that I already have a base of love or knowledge of, and that I want to flesh out more. So I want to add substance to my enthusiasm. Is this just a load of rubbish? I don't know, but I'm excited to read the book. I've had it for a while, keep meaning to get round to it. Looking forward to finally doing that, so that's good. The third prompt is love, and I've gone down what is probably going to be a very sad interpretation of this, but I've gone for Blue Nights by Joan Didion, which is Joan Didion's daughter passed away, and she wrote this book sort of reflecting on the time she had with her daughter and on her daughter's life and on loss and on love and all of this sort of thing. So this is probably not going to be a walk in the park. This is probably going to be deeply sad at times, but I thought that it fit the topic quite well for the types of love that I value a lot, if that makes any sense. And finally, the last word is scholarship. So I have gone for Blue Stockings, the remarkable story of the first woman to fight for an education by Jane Robinson, because they wanted to engage with scholarship, and this is the journey about how women were how women were allowed to engage with scholarship and learning, how women fought to engage with scholarship and learning and go to university and get an education, and all of these things. I've read a Jane Robinson book before that was all about just wonderful women throughout history, and that was thoroughly great. So I already know that I quite like her style, so this should be a right laugh. I believe it's got a lot of primary sources from, own words of the women who were doing these things. So this is probably the one that I feel like is going to be maybe the easiest read for me, I think. Just like a settle in and get started type thing. I've decided to just do one for each category, mainly because non-fiction definitely takes me longer to read than fiction does, so while I've been getting through fiction books at quite a fast rate this year, I feel like I should allow myself a little bit of leeway. My plan is to do a roundup video at the end of November and just give you my thoughts on these books, and if I have somehow sped my way through them and found time to read more non-fiction, then I will also include any extra tidbits and reviews and books in that video as well. If you are in any way interested in reading a bit more non-fiction, maybe you'd like to jump on board with this. If so, would love to hear from you, find out what you're going to read, that sort of thing, have generally talks about non-fiction, all that jazz. I have been meaning to do a non-fiction sort of, I don't know whether it's going to be like a series or just the one video, but just like non-fiction recommendations, maybe split into genres like autobiography, and then like fashion and history and, you know, stuff. So let me know if that is in any way of interest. Other than that, I hope you have a super lovely November. I hope you do not catch the traditional autumnal cold and that somehow it skips you by. And I'll see you next week when hopefully I will be well again.